Well, it's one of those days. Let me just tell you that right now. I'm turning up the sound just to see if I can hear myself. Yes, sort of. Oh my. What an embarrassment. So I did the whole.
Well, it's one of those days.
I did the whole first half of the show with my microphone off. And I only found out that it was off when I went to break and the microphone was already off. It happens, unfortunately. So all that fun we had talking about how reviewing DALL-E 3 on Microsoft has changed, has DALL-E 3 on ChatGPT 4 also changed, in that it used to be very realistic, and now it's just become a cartoon. And those of us who use it every day can't figure out what changed from Saturday to 3 or 4 days later, when this change was obviously implemented on the side of DALL-E 3. What in the world happened? Well, I guess it's maybe people are trying to create too many images and it's cheaper and more efficient to just simply make a cartoon instead of making something that looks like a photograph. That's the only thing I can think of. Secondly, we also talked about NPR. I'll show it to you right now because it's really fantastically wild. A North Carolina radio station is going to reject broadcasts of inappropriate Met operas. Metropolitan Operas, the premier opera house in the United States, in New York City, the MetOpera. And it's WCPE is the name of the opera. And here's the most disturbing part of the whole article that I shared with you. 3 of the operas that WCPE plans to reject in the 2023 and 2024 season were written by Black or Mexican composers. They're not even hiding their bigotry. This past April, WCPE also refused to broadcast another Met-produced opera written by a Black composer that included LGBTQ themes. Now, as I said previously, it's okay to live stream on radio Carmen, where she's killed by her jealous lover. Killed right on stage. The last big moment of the opera is Carmen being killed with a knife from her previous lover. Because he says, if I can't have you, no one can have you, and she's dead. Now that's okay. That you can put on the radio. La Traviata. A young woman who happens to be a prostitute falls in love with a man of prestige. He rejects her. She becomes sick, and she dies in the end, and everyone is miserable. That's okay. Children can listen to that. But if it's a story written by a Black or a Mexican, well, you're not going to hear it in North Carolina. WCPE is not having it, and the station manager says she has to stand before Jesus Christ at the end of her life and defend her decisions. And to that and to her, I say good luck, because you're defending all the wrong things. Now we're going to talk about the recent writers' strike that was pretty successfully resolved in favor of the artists, the writers, and it's a wonderful thing. However, there was this really interesting situation that happened with Drew Barrymore and the Drew Barrymore show, where she decided that she was going to go ahead and do her talk show without her writers because she just wouldn't do any writing. She would just perform. Now, Conan O'Brien tried that in the first writer's strike several years ago. And he did a good job. I mean, he's a writer. And he said, okay, I don't have any writers, but I'm going to do my show. And I'm going to sit here and, flip a coin for an hour. And it was funny and all that. But, Conan's a writer. And he was doing his show. So even though he was, what is writing? Is writing something down? Is writing being inventive? Is writing saying something witty? Yes. So after he tried that little sort of trick, the Writers Guild changed their policy and said, look, if you're performing on your show, that's writing your show. So you are violating the writer's contract. So Conan isn't around anymore. He's gone. But all the other, talk shows wanted to come back and they couldn't. But Drew Barrymore said that she was going to come back and do her show, period. Now, a little bit of background. And it begins with this. This is from like a year ago. Okay? January of 2022. Important background. Now, when the Drew Barrymore show made its debut, Judge Judy was in the time slot. CBS 2 New York, 4 p.m. That, for 25 years, was the Judge Judy time slot. And Endemol, or whoever produces Judge Judy and produces the Drew Barrymore show, went to Judge Judy and said, hey, Judge Judy, Drew Barrymore is going to do a talk show, and she's going to take your slot at 4, so we're going to move you to, after her show. And Judge Judy said, 4 o'clock, New York, Channel 2. Just got to know those bing bongs you're hearing are us getting disconnected from our live stream. It's a little bit of a cursed show today, but that's okay. The whole first half hour, no microphone. And now we're off, but now we're back, I guess. So Drew Barrymore's talk show ratings are in a free fall. So that did not take long for Drew Barrymore to go in the tank a year and a half ago. Network denies plans to cancel. Okay? And if you've ever watched the Drew Barrymore show, it's really terrible. It's not funny. It's boring. She's not funny. She's not entertaining. It's painful to watch. I will post this in our Discord server. And here's Judge Judy fighting back. Judge Judy, the court program, brings in 3 times the amount of viewers that Drew Barrymore does, moved to lesser local channels, and fans don't think that's good enough. They want CBS to bring back Hot Bench featuring other judges. So we know that back in 2022, Drew Barrymore is having problems on her show. And the rumor is that during the WGA strike, she said she wanted to come back and do her show because all of the other people working on her show weren't getting paid. Now, other people who had shows were paying their staff out of their own pocket to keep them employed. Drew Barrymore didn't do that. So a week before the strike was officially pretty much over, Drew Barrymore announced that she was going back to do her show. And there was outrage from the WGA and from the unions, and they called her a scab. That she was crossing the line, the picket line of her own show to go and pull a Conan O'Brien and write her own show while hosting it, which is no longer allowed. And she didn't care. And she was starting it on a Monday. And a couple of days later, I guess the pressure got to her, the embarrassment got to her, and she said, oh, never mind, I'm not going to come back and do my show. But the damage was already done. She self-fulfilled the scab philosophy. She crossed a picket line, a union picket line, and went to work for herself on her own show for her own benefit. Now, was there pressure placed on her by her syndicator to get her show back on the air? Because she's been in trouble for a year and a half with ratings? I don't know. Maybe. And then this article pops up yesterday, and it's even juicier and better. The Drew Barrymore Show writers declined to return. So she had 3 writers on the Drew Barrymore Show, right? And she was going to come back, forget them. She was coming back to do her show, the Drew Barrymore Show, by herself, writing it by herself, without her writers. And then scabbing. And then she said, I won't do it. And now that there's a deal, the writer's strike is over, hey, everybody's starting again, come and do your show. And Drew Barrymore is ready to do her show, and the writers that she disparaged and disrespected, there are 3 of them on that show, believe it or not, said, I'm not going to work for you because you're a scab. Drew Barrymore's daytime talk show is coming back on October 16, but the show's 3 WGA writers have turned down an offer to return with it. The Drew Barrymore Show is once again readying its return. Once again, right? Though a trio of Writers Guild of America writers have chosen not to return to their old job. Now that's dramatic because you get paid a lot of good money on these daily shows. So for them to stand together and turn out and say, we don't want to work for you because you don't like us, you try to stab us in the back, you're a scab, we don't have anything to do with you. Barrymore found herself in hot water last month when she announced that her daytime talk show would make its 4th season debut without its striking writers. A week later, after Barrymore faced backlash and at least a few panicked guest cancellations, she revealed that she'd be reversing course, pushing the show's return until the WGA strike was over. But now that the strike is over, the show is set to come back October 16th, and those writers have declined to come back. On September 11, which was the show's first day back in production, they told The Hollywood Reporter that they'd found out that Drew was going to return to the show without them, and they didn't hear that news, not from their boss or colleagues, but from audience ticket giveaways that had been posted on social media. One writer said it's a bummer to hear that the show is going back because it sends a message that union writers are not valuable. Another writer said, I understand that everybody has to do what they feel is best for them. For me and the WGA writers on the show, it's important for us to stick with our union. We deserve a fair contract. So we're going to continue to strike. So that's what happens when you think you're a big star and that you can make up your own rules, and the people who are most valuable to your show, your writers, who make you funny and make you interesting and who fill in the empty spaces, are not respected, and you think you can just go on there and create a whole show yourself, well, you get blowback. And they stand up to you and say, you're a scab. You didn't support us. We don't want to work with you. We don't want to work for you. So go find other people. Now, the rumor is on the street that WGA writers are not going to want to go on the Drew Barrymore show because she is so tainted with this scab name that she, interestingly, gave herself through her actions. And so they're going to have trouble getting back on the air because it's a WGA show and they need WGA writers. She just can't hire a scab to come in and write the show. Now, will somebody in the WGA step forward and take a shot at writing the Drew Barrymore show for a raise and big money? Probably. But if you believe in the union, and if you don't believe in being a scab supporter, you probably would try to find work elsewhere, especially on a show that would be better than the Drew Barrymore show. if you have any sense of pride and prestige in what you want to do with your life. Well, it's been a wonderful show today. Had a couple of technical problems, but we fixed them in the end. You never know where you are or who you are until you get there. I thank you for being here. I'll see you next time. You can find us on our Discord server. It's discord.gg/BOLES. And I'll see